I've got an Action Man up in the corner at the top there. And
Wearing
so
the football kit.
They went, has someone got an Action Man? I went, yeah. They went, you've got an Action Man? I went, yeah. And I was really proud because I got it down. I went, well, it's got an Arsenal kit on and stuff. It's like,
has it got the swivel eyes?
No, it's a proper original Action Man. It's none of that cheap 1980s swivel eye stuff.
Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Lant and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 219. Now, we are joined by a very special returning guest today, who I will introduce you to in a minute. But first of all, we'll touch base with Mr. Peter Lant. How are you doing, Pete? You okay?
I'm very well. And if we've already mentioned this, but if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be forgiven for thinking it's about 5 years ago. We're not in lockdown, but our guest does have a bookcase behind him, like all the people on Zoom in lockdown had all those years ago. So
he's on BBC News, you know.
Yeah.
I've just got a lot of toys behind me, but you know.
Well, I've got a blank wall, like I said, because then it means we'll just get on with it, doesn't it? There's nothing to talk about.
It just looks like he's been arrested and he's just having.
Hang on, you've got to do that, and then
hide, and then to the back. Yeah, brilliant. Well, we are. If you are listening on the day of release, which I know many of you do, it's the 8th of November today. And the guest we have on today, I'll quickly introduce him and say hello, and then I'll kind of do my little bit of a retro patter. But Mr. Steve Bush, how are you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, James. Good afternoon, Peter, and hello, everybody, and thanks for inviting me back.
Yeah, well, we before we get going, I will say to people that I know we pick up new listeners every kind of month. So Steve was last on with us way back, episode 127, which I worked out was 92 weeks ago, which is nearly 2 years ago. It's about a year and 9 months ago. And the episode that we did with Steve to begin with, or the first time, was called Why Weight Loss Surgery Fails for the Majority of People. And it was a really, really interesting, candid, honest discussion we had with Steve. And actually, we are the 8th of November today. And yesterday, the 7th of November, was the 5-year anniversary of when Steve had his weight loss or gastric surgery 5 years ago. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk to Steve, because we said in the first one, the title of the episode obviously was Why Weight Loss Surgery Fails for the Majority of people. And I know Steve does, we'll talk about this today as well, does coaching and mentoring and talks to people who are maybe considering having surgery now. And we'll talk about that as well. And I said on the previous episode that in the kind of 20, 25 years that I've been doing this kind of thing, I've known lots and lots of people who have had weight loss surgery of various descriptions over the last couple of decades. And Steve is the only person that I know who has really made a massive change in his life and had the surgery and got benefit from it, and then has sustained the weight loss and totally turned his life around. So we're going to kind of talk about that. It's a really interesting conversation we're going to have. But if you haven't listened to the first one, episode 127, maybe go back, because we're not going to kind of retread all the old ground, but we are going to more concentrate on where Steve is now and what he's done over the last couple of years. So Steve, thank you so much for coming back on. I mean, your episode last time, like many kind of what I would call, and what me and Pete would call, normal people who come on, everyday people, not fitness professionals, not coaches, not authors, not, Olympic athletes, kind of regular people.
Boring bastards.
Boring bastards.
Yeah. Okay, know where you stand now. Yep.
No, but what I was going to say was, these episodes really resonate with listeners because 99.9% of people are not Olympic athletes, you know, so the kind of things that you talk about and the real relatable, and especially the struggles that you had with being overweight, you know, for the majority of your life, will strike a chord with lots of listeners and people watching on YouTube. So maybe Steve, can you just do a kind of, you know, like when you watch a new series of a show and it just gives you a quick 1 minute like recap to remind you where you're at. Can you just maybe just tell us, you know, what surgery you had, when you had it, and just maybe a little bit about your life prior to that? Just a kind, you know, 2 or 3 minutes just to kind of get us going again so we can catch up with you.
No problem. Thanks, James. So, so 5 years ago today, I would have been coming out of a local private hospital having had a gastric sleeve. So for those of you that aren't aware of what a gastric sleeve is, they cut away just over half of your stomach. So your stomach, if you like, is L-shaped. So they cut away a bit down the bottom and you end up with like a tube, which looks like a sleeve. It can't be reversed. Once you've had it done, you've had it done, right? So it is permanent. That said, you can still stretch your stomach, which obviously I had done, because prior to going down the route of weight loss surgery, I weighed 30 stone and 6 pounds, which James will convert into whatever that is in kilos or whatever in pounds, but I was a big guy.
So yeah, for Americans, about 420 pounds ish. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Makes me, it feels like.
And for you, and for Europeans, about 190 kilos. Okay. Right. Okay.
So I've got strong legs, because I was carrying around a big old weight for a long time. So I'd been big all my life. And as what tends to happen, a lot of people sort of put on a few pounds or stones or kilos as they get older. The problem is my starting point was really, really high, right? So as I was putting it on, I was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And in some ways, I suppose I could say I was lucky in that I hadn't had any medical problems. In fact, when I used to go and have, you know, blood tests and stuff like that, they'd do my blood pressure and they go, well, it's high, but it's not, it should be like off the scale high and whatever. And your heart rate's high, but it's not really, really high. So I've done all right, but life was just bloody hard. So going to, you know, in the background, all the red stuff, by the way, which makes it look much more interesting, even if it's a bit retro COVID days for those watching on YouTube, is all my Arsenal stuff, because I'm an Arsenal season ticket holder. I'm very lucky. I used to get stuck in the turnstile going in the ground. I used to have to put my arms in the air to be able to force myself to get through the turnstile. Walking to the ground, I was taking ibuprofen like it was going out of fashion. So my knees started hurting, my back started hurting. I went into restaurants, I had to look for chairs without arms on. So life was just difficult. So I decided I need to do something. I needed to change. And the problem is I got so big, I decided on having weight loss surgery. And I was lucky enough I could afford to pay for it privately. And by having weight loss surgery privately, you get a dietitian and a consultant and all sorts of things. And so I had the surgery, and my ambition in life post-surgery was to walk 10,000 steps a day. Because before the surgery, I was walking 1,500. So that's the background.
And then you had the surgery, and yeah, just so that's the background. That's kind of leading up to this 5 year ago date, the 5th anniversary that we're on sort of today or yesterday. And then, but we said in the first episode that the majority of people, and I can't remember, you've probably been told by, I know that your consultant, your surgeon, the experts at the hospital who kind of dealt with you had sort of, they kind of say to you, don't they, that, you know, there's very, very, very few people who have this surgery and actually create a long-term sustainable change. Like I say, I must know a couple of dozen people who've had it, and you're the only person out of those couple of dozen who's really made a proper change and totally changed their life and have sustained it for like 5 years now. So what was the kind of rough statistic that you were told, or that you get given when you go in for this kind of thing?
So I was told this, and it's not changed that much. I checked the stats. So the average person who has a gastric sleeve or weight loss surgery will lose between 50 and 60, maybe 65% of their excess weight. So, you know, a lot of people need to lose 10 stone plus, so they're still 4 stone overweight, having had surgery, which is just mind blowing for me. It's a lot to go through. The scary thing is that of the people that have lost weight, 50% of them put the weight back on. Because although your stomach is smaller, you can stretch it. So it's a bit like when you've ever been out for a meal and they say, "Would you like a dessert?" You go, "Oh no, I'm too full up," and then you sit there and you stuff a dessert and you're really full. You're stretching your stomach effectively, and so the stats are just.
Yeah, sorry, Pete. Pete was just going to say something. Just let.
I have a question about that, because you obviously you were huge, and you said so when they've cut away half of your stomach, does it leave like the average size stomach, say, does it leave something roughly that size or like 3/4 of the size? Do you know what I mean? Because like, are they cutting away half of a bigger stomach, basically?
Yeah, well, the bigger the stomach, the more they cut away, right? So
no, but yeah, but because that's what I'm thinking. So because I'm thinking like, blimey, because it leaves you with a smaller stomach, so therefore you can't eat as much and all of that. But
you can. So literally, I've got a sleeve, so my stomach would be much smaller than your stomach is now.
Right. Okay.
So I struggle to eat. Well, I can't eat a 3-course meal. Well, I could, but I'd make myself ill. I'd be sick even now, 5 years on. And as time goes on, you can eat more because your stomach heals and then it starts to stretch a little bit or whatever. And the real key thing is you can eat more, but you can eat the wrong stuff. So, you know, if you load up on potatoes and starch and carbs and stuff like that, or chocolate, you know, you may not be able to eat as much as you used to be able to eat, but you can still eat a lot of calories that's just wrong. And at the end of the day, I've got an eating disorder. And what I've discovered over time is lots of people have bad relationships with food. And what do I mean by that is that we use food at the wrong times because we're tired. So you go, I need some chocolate. Or, you know, you're working, you know, I work in operational excellence and change management in businesses. And the business I'm in at the moment, the amount of people in the first couple of weeks went, "Oh, I haven't had a chance to have lunch. I've just gone to, there's like a pantry where they can get crisps and chocolate," and they have that. And you just get into bad habits because you have a bad relationship. You think you need those things and you don't. You know, James talks a lot about the importance of sleep, walking and water. But the amount of people that aren't drinking water, they drink fizzy drinks. Well, I haven't touched, well, as I say, I haven't touched a fizzy drink for 5 years other than lager. I love lager, right? So I have a few pints of lager occasionally because that's important to me because life's about balance. But I can't drink what I used to be able to drink because my stomach's small and I get full up. But what I've learned over time, it's the reason, you know, going back to James's point about, you know, the success rate and whatever, I've been lucky. I've had a lot of support, but I've been successful because I did what the consultants told me to do and what the dietitian said. And indeed, when I went back after a year, the consultant turned around to me because you have 2 years support after an operation. After the first year, he said to me, "You've lost a lot of weight," which seemed rather ironic to me because I went, "You gave me the weight loss surgery, you cut half my stomach away. That was the idea." He went, "Yeah, but you've lost ever such a lot." And I had lost 99% of my excess weight in 12 months.
Wow.
And but then when you walk through what I did, like 3 days after the operation, I was walking 7,000 steps a day. It was nearly killing me because I was still weighed 27 stone or whatever. But I did it, and then I got up to 10,000 within a couple of weeks. And then
what do you think, Steve? Because obviously this is really, really interesting, and because, you know, you said you have like an eating disorder or a bad relationship with food, or you certainly had.
I still have.
And you still have. But what has, you know, you had this operation, you obviously invested money into like quite a you know, serious procedure, which you had. And then it sounds like almost at the same time as that physical procedure, the thing that most people don't do is their mind stays exactly the same after the physical procedure, which is why, you know, 12 months later, they, you know, most of them are, you know, pretty much back where they started or whatever. Certainly nowhere near the success that you've had. So what do you think happened to you with your mind and your thinking that you had this operation and you are basically like a changed person? I mean, well, are you? I mean, do you feel like you are a changed person from pre-operation? How would you describe it? You know what I mean? If you had to kind of explain.
My son refers to me as old dad and new dad. He goes, "You're the same dad. There's just different versions of you." So I think I'm a better version of myself, purely and simply because I'm calmer. When you lose weight, you don't know if I've lost. I'm about 7 pounds heavier than I was when we did this last time, and that was deliberate because I just felt I had no energy. So I do a lot more working out, and I've got a lower body fat than I had before. But I'm calmer, so physically I feel better. But I'm just calmer, and because I'm calmer, I'm a better. It sounds corny, but I'm a better version of myself because I don't fly off the handle so much. But also because I can stay calmer, I don't get into those what I call trigger moments where I think I need to use food to make me feel better. Because bizarrely, in the old Steve, used to get a tub of ice cream and eat it, and it used to make me feel good. But then I'd feel bad because I'd ate a tub of ice cream, so I used to eat something else because that used to make me feel good. It almost gave me comfort. Same as people who drink. When you get home, you think, "Oh, I need to relax. I'm going to have a glass of wine." Well, you may not know, but lots of people do. Or, it's just a habit, but you think it's making you feel better. So I try and stay calmer, and the exercise helps me stay calmer. The key thing for me is, if you have weight loss surgery, you'll lose weight, right? You will do, but it's like any change. You want to be able to sustain it. And the reason I've done it is, having worked in change management and operational excellence for 20 years, I had this brilliant idea of why don't I apply the logic that I apply at work to my personal life and see if that change sticks. So if you're doing change at work, do you have a reason to change? I had a reason to change. To be blunt, I couldn't do the things I wanted to do, and I'd have probably have died. Even my son says you wouldn't have survived COVID because you'd have either caught it and had it really bad, or you'd have eaten and drunk yourself to an early grave, which is quite sad reflection, but that's where I was. So I had a reason to change. Did I have the skills to do it? No. So I had the surgery, and then after that, I joined Unique Results. And I had a brilliant personal trainer in Nikki, and still have, who taught me how to look after my stuff and introduce things like stretch, which had never crossed my mind, but things that are important as you get older. Then how do I sustain that change? By re-looking at how I organize my time. The priorities in my life used to be very much family, work. Now in my calendar, and I've since the last episode, I've changed job twice. I've moved house. Unfortunately, my mother passed away and she was ill for 4 months. We've renovated the house we've been in. I've had lots of reasons not to train, but I still train because those training sessions I've realigned my life. They're important to me. So they're a rock, as I call it. They're things that I do. So even if I don't want to do it, in my head, it's like, you spin on Monday morning, I'm going to go spin. It's PT on Thursday morning, I'm going to get up at 5:30 and go to do my PT, because that's the thing I do. That's the thing I do. And so by realigning my life to support that change, and then I've been really lucky, I've had loads of support around me, my friends, my family, people I meet down the gym. And what I found is people are taking interest in what I do, and then I talk to them about fitness, and then they'll say to me, I've started doing X. There's a lady, I've just started this a new job a few months ago as a consultant, and I was talking to a lady who's got a young son, and she's got a personal trainer, and she used to like running. And I was chatting to her, and I went, I went out for a run the other morning, nearly killed me. I haven't done one for a while. It was early, it was a late night and whatever. And she went, I love running. I went, well, why are you not doing it? She went, I haven't got time. Why haven't you got time? Work. Well, where is it in your work? Where are you trying to plan it in? Well, I'm not planning it in. Well, if you don't plan it in, you're never going to get it. You're never going to get it in. Anyway, to cut a long story short, the last 2 Fridays, when she goes to pick up her son at the end of the day, which her end of the day on a Friday, say, I don't know, 3 o'clock or ish, she runs there rather than jumping in the car. So she gives herself that 25 minutes to run. And she turns around and she goes, I feel so much better for doing that. And by the way, I checked with her if I could tell this story, and she went, Steve, you talk about accountability. You're making me accountable for planning in the time to do it, rather than using an excuse of, I've got a kid, I've got work, I've got whatever. So the reason I think mine's been more successful is a combination of factors. But the key thing is I plan things in to do them. So I make that commitment that I'm going to do it, and therefore take that accountability on myself. Because
that's like I said at the start. I think it was while we were recording when I sort of said about relatable things for most of the people listening. What you've just said, I think, is relatable for everyone, because it's relatable for me, it's relatable for Pete. You know, in terms of training, there's always reasons not to train, or excuses not to train, or things you can use as reasons not to train, isn't there? Do you know what I mean? But you just have to get it in there somewhere, and and I do get it, because I read something earlier on I think it was on Instagram. Adam Meakins had shared something about you have to be really careful now on social media, because you put something there, it's quite a broad you know, like,
hang on, can I just say your review of Joker 2.
oh yeah,
That caused a stir. You have to be careful what you put on social media. You just put your review of what you thought of a film, and people will argue with you about it. You haven't even seen the film.
I almost started World War III, but it wasn't even people arguing with me. It was people arguing between themselves on my post.
Yeah,
that don't even know each other. And I thought, God, no, but yeah. So but what I was going to say was, you have to, because Adam Meakins had put something around, you know, how exercise is, you know, people take lots of medication for things that, you know, exercise and lifestyle can sort out. You know, it was kind of summarizing roughly, but it was just a one slide Instagram. And like he always gets, there's a tirade of people underneath saying, well, that's a very ignorant comment. You know, people have got this, people have got that. And but I think that he didn't say all, but I think the majority of people can do things a little bit better than they do. You know, it doesn't mean making huge sweeping changes, but like you said, the lady just once a week on a Friday running to school to pick up the son, instead of driving. And it might take, if it's a 20-minute run, it probably is probably nearly a 10-minute drive with traffic. So it's not much, but that example of how you can just fit a little bit more into what you already do. And like you said, how much better she feels for doing it is really powerful. It's so powerful. So, I mean, do you, am I right in saying that you do get referred people, or you talk to people now who are either signed up for weight loss surgery or are considering weight loss surgery? Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, since I've realised a couple of things. I was lucky that I could afford to have the right support in place, and there are people that have the operation on the NHS who don't get the same level of support for obvious reasons, because the NHS can't do it. So there's a couple of groups that I'm members of where I sort of act as a mentor, where people can reach out and have done so. And then, just to be blunt, because I bang on about it all the time in terms of well-being, someone goes, oh, I know someone who knows someone. So I end up just sort of people go, oh, can you have a chat with this person or whatever? And if I can, I help, because it makes me accountable as well. So going back to like Emma, who's the lady I was talking about, she'd do a run on Friday and do that run. So I think, right, so if I wake up Friday morning, I want to go for a run. Part of me is like, oh, Emma will do the run. If she then says to me, have you done the run? No, I couldn't be bothered. I'm not living up to the brand, if you like, of what I'm trying to be. So it makes me accountable as well. So it sort of helps fulfill what I need to do. So sorry, I've lost my train of thought, James. What was I saying?
Oh, I just said about you talking to a mentoring.
Oh yeah, so
people,
on the mentoring. So yeah, lots of people think that weight loss surgery is an easy option, and it's far from that. The scary thing is weight loss surgery is becoming an old hat, because you can now take drugs, and that's fine. And people go, I bet you don't agree with that, because some people don't agree with weight loss surgery. If there is a tool that helps you to be better, I think it's brilliant. However, the tool is only an enabler to the initial change. How do you sustain that change? So no difference when you have weight loss surgery, how you're going to sustain the weight loss and keep being healthy. If you're having injections, great, or tablets, and you're losing weight, great, that's going to make you feel better. What happens when you come off of those? Because if you haven't sorted out your behaviors, you're on a dangerous slope that you're going to end up being back to where you start. And that's the key thing that I have with everyone I talk to. I talk about, I'll talk to them about the experience and what to expect when you go through the weight losses, the weight loss surgery, what I found hard, what I found easy. And it is horrible. You can't eat I didn't eat proper solid food for 7 weeks. I lived on liquidized oxtail soup literally for 2 weeks, and black coffee and water, and just sipping it. For 2 years, I ate cold foods because you can't eat a full meal sort of thing. So it's difficult, right? And don't get me wrong, I would never change a bit of it. So you learn all those things of what you have to go through to warn people it's hard. But the hardest bit is sustaining any change. And that's the bit I think that, I'll be honest, I do a lot of driving down to Bristol where I'm working at the moment. I hear on the radio about people having this tablets and injections and whatever. And I've only heard one lady turn and go, people need to use that time to reset their relationship with food. They need to change their behaviours and understand how they're going to sustain this change. Because otherwise we're going to have it's going to be a roller coaster of people's weights going up and down.
What I found interesting, what you said earlier, was you had a dietitian there and a consultant and all of this, and you did what they told you.
Yeah.
Funny that, isn't it? That these people know what they're talking about. It's like people who get coaches and stuff like that, and you do what they tell you, and you get the result. Because it's not like they tell you exactly what to do. They find out about you, and then they give you options on how to do it around your, like, who you are, don't they? So it's not like this is how to do it. So I don't know how you talk to other people about it as well, but like there's a way you did it, but it might not be the way they're going to do it. However, if you talk about it, you find ways of being able to do it within your lifestyle, or changing your lifestyle subtly and having I mean, not everyone can get coaches and stuff like that, but if you're going to have one, do what they tell you, and talk about it and be open and honest, and then you find a solution, don't you?
Yeah, I like to tell stories and go, look, this worked well because, or this didn't work for me because. So then people can relate to that situation and go, okay, then, well, that's my situation is a bit similar to that or whatever. But, as I said to the consultant, you went to medical school and spent years and years learning all this stuff or whatever. So I'm sort of assuming you know what you're talking about. I didn't know anything. I could just about walk, right? So I'm going to listen to everything he said. The dietitian, I didn't particularly get on that well with the dietitian because she was quite blunt, but she was probably needed to be quite blunt to go, this is what you need to do. And I did it. And it's no different to, going back to Nikki in the gym. She shows me how to lift things. I was talking to James this morning and went, I never thought I'd say this. I actually enjoy doing core exercises. And it's just like, because she's teaching me how to do the weird and wonderful things that I would never have been able to do before. And that, again, helps me to sustain the change because I like little mini goals. I'm stubborn and competitive. So if someone says try and do something, I like to try and do something. And the nice thing now is I spent all my life not being able to do things that I wanted to do. Now, if someone says to me, do something, I'll go, all right, I'll give it a try. I know I won't come first, but I'm pretty certain I won't come last either. And
the thing is now, Steve, you say yes to everything. We've had a few conversations. I'm like, Steve, stop saying yes to everything. He's like, we'll come on to that in a minute, won't we? Because Steve, you will find out in a minute. Like Steve will say, oh, I'm going to do a high rocks. I'm going to cycle to Amsterdam. I'm going to do a marathon. I'm going to do the tactical strength challenge. I'm going to try and do 20 press ups by Christmas. And he'll just say yes to everything, which is great because, like you say, you spent a lot of your life saying no to things because, because you probably couldn't do them. You knew you couldn't do them and all the rest of it. So, yeah. So talk to us a bit then. I mean, we can kind of go back to, I suppose, the last 5 years now, in terms of your life before surgery was, like you say, you were 30 plus stone, or like we said, 420 pounds, 190 kilos, could barely walk, half a mile, I suppose, without being in chronic pain and out of breath and sweaty and all the rest of it. You had this surgery, you made change over it. It's not like you click your fingers, you had the surgery one day and you were super fit the next. You weren't. It takes time. But over the 5 years, what kind of, you've got a bit of a list of the things that you've done recently. So what have you said yes to and done? Because I mean, it's quite incredible from where you came from 5 years ago.
Yeah, incredible stroke, a little bit stupid, but anyway. The first thing is just to recap on something I did before, because I think this is really important. And if I hadn't have done this and said yes to this, I wouldn't have done any of the other stuff. And that is, over lockdown, unfortunately, my best friend had a mini stroke. And thank God it was a mini stroke and he was okay. But he decided he needed to get fitter. And his son talked him into doing Couch to 5K. And he challenged me. And bear in mind, I've done no physical challenge other than walking. He went, "You're doing loads of walking now, Steve. Why don't we do Couch to 5K?" And there was something in me that went, "All right then." And so I did Couch to 5K, and it is brilliant. I couldn't run. Going back to, I completed it in June 21. So it would have been, I'd say, April 21 I started. And the first thing, you have to run for a minute. I could not run for a minute. I remember looking at my phone, thinking it must be nearly a minute, and I've been running for 25 seconds. And I'll say I ran for a minute. My arms were running, but the rest of me wasn't, right? But, I did the minute, and then you have to walk, and then it bleeps, and you have to go again. 8 weeks later, I ran 5K without stopping, and it took me nearly 42 minutes. And at that stage, I weighed about 21 stone, but I did it. And that gave me the confidence and felt so good that I then subsequently went on to do other things. So what have I done since I saw you? So February 23, there's a random list of things. I now seem to be a regular doing the Chelmsford Half Marathon. So each March, I do the Chelmsford Half Marathon now. So I did it in 23 and I did it in 24. In 23, just beforehand, I'd done the Reading Half Marathon and done it in 2 hours, 2 seconds. That really hacked me off, particularly because I went over the line in front of the fellow who had the flag that said 2 hours. So if I could sue him, I would have done, right? Because I should have 1 minute 59.59, and it just annoyed me. So I wasn't going to do the half marathon in 23 because I've got a bit of a dodgy knee. And one of the guys at the gym, Matt Sowles, we do a few things together, as you know, James. He went, "Well, we'll see how we go and see how we get on." So I did the normal stupid thing and went out too fast. And then he dragged me round, and I ended up doing it in 1 hour 58 because of Matt. He dragged me around for the last mile and just made sure he didn't run off too far in front of me and pulled me along the line. So I did that.
Because a sub 2 hour half marathon is good going. Do you know what I mean? That is good going, definitely.
Yeah, until I did another couple of things, I thought it was the hardest thing I'd ever done. But yeah, and then in the May, I did the Milton Keynes Marathon because
the full marathon.
Because a lady I work with, she was talking about it. I went, "Oh, I might do a marathon one day." She went, "Why don't you do it with me?" So I went, "All right then." So I did, yes. I ran the marathon. I didn't do a very good time. There was 3 of us that did it, and we agreed to cross the line all together. And one of the guys really struggled, so we were a bit over 5 hours. So I need to do one in under 5 hours. But I did the marathon. That was all right. Quite well. No, actually, I didn't enjoy that. I was going to say quite. It was very good to say I've done it. An amazing experience, but it's boring. It's a long bloody time. So anyway,
that's because you did it in Milton Keynes. We're going to piss people off in Milton Keynes now. Anyway, just like round and round some roundabouts.
No, seriously, you go round it twice. So we're going round because I have this thing. I don't look at the course, right? Because if I look at the course, I'll see what I've got to face, and I go, "Stuff that." So I don't look at the course, which I know is a bit weird, but that's.
I think I've done the Milton Keynes one. Is that the one? Is it the Majewski Stadium? Is that Milton Keynes?
No, it's Reading.
That's Reading. That's Reading.
Yeah,
sorry. Yeah. So where does Milton Keynes go into a stadium though?
It does, not the year I did it. It was in a park. They've now put it back in. The 1 year they didn't have it finishing in the Milton Keynes Stadium was the year I did it. But literally, you run around Milton Keynes, and then I'm going around. I went, "This looks familiar," and she went, "Yeah, we're on the second lap." I'm like, "What do you mean second lap? We're going around the same route." So it was just, oh God, it was boring as hell.
I wonder if we have any listeners from Milton Keynes.
Sorry. No, it's funny because the Bath half marathon, I've done that a couple of times. They changed the route a bit now, but it goes out. There's Lower Bristol Road and Upper Bristol Road. So it runs down Lower Bristol Road, up Upper Bristol Road, and then you do it again, right? But when you're coming, so whenever I've done it the first time, so I've gone down one road, you're coming back up the other road, and the leaders are running past you on the other side of the road. It's like split in half, and they're cruising along, looking like they're flying, and you're knackered on your first lap. and then
Yeah.
nearly
I think
finished.
that's like in the London Marathon, you're going past about like, I don't know, mile 10, and then there's people going literally just the other side of the the temporary barricade, who are like maybe on about mile 18 or something, and they're flying. I can't remember the exact mileage, but yeah, I remember that point as well.
And to be fair, Pete's just really highlighted why I didn't like the Milton Keynes Marathon, because you go around twice. I did get laps quite a lot, and it was annoying.
It's so destroying, isn't it? It's if someone's coming the other way, that's fair enough. But when they're going past you, and at basically twice the speed you're at, like a pace you can't actually run at as well, you're like, no, stop it.
When he went past me, I did briefly think, I'm going to see if I can keep up with him for a little while, which lasted about 10 foot. But so, and then in September I did a duathlon, because I can swim, but I haven't got the time to learn to swim like as you need to do a triathlon. So duathlon, you do a 10k run, you do a 44k cycle, and then a 5k run. So I did that in September 23. That was good fun. I learned a bit of a lesson there, because I thought the cycling would be quite easy, because in the June the year before, I'd cycled to Paris as a charity ride with Kids Inspire, which was amazing. I then hadn't been on a bike for a year, and then I decided to do that, which was a mistake. But I do a lot of spinning, so it got me through. But I loved it; it was brilliant. And I was gonna do it again this year, but unfortunately, it was at Richmond Park and they cancelled it. Anyway, so I did the duathlon, but just before that, I'd been on holiday. And my new lifestyle, I used to read like 442 football magazine when I'm laying on the beach drinking beer. And now I read Men's Health. And in Men's Health magazine in the summer of 23, they were talking about this new fitness thing called Hyrox. And so I actually posted a picture on Facebook going, this looks like a cool thing to do. I wouldn't mind doing this in the next year. And in May this year, myself and Matt Sales, who's a guy I trained with, I mentioned before, did half marathon with, we'd signed up. And because Matt is brilliant at making you train properly, we trained all year and we completed the Hyrox men's doubles together at Olympia, which was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. But oh my God, that's hard.
Yeah, because 4 episodes ago, obviously, we had on Claire, didn't we? Claire Rafferty from Hyrox. Yeah, so she was, and she actually, just quick shout out to Claire, because she did the Chicago Marathon last weekend, didn't she?
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah. So she was out in Chicago and did that. Yeah, so the Hyrox you really loved, and you've signed up for another. Are you doing another? You've got another 2, haven't you? Signed up for, I think.
3, yeah.
3. So I told you couldn't say no to anything, right?
So yeah, I've so it's really hard to get into Hyrox events now. You have to go into ballots and things, and we've just been unlucky. There's a few of us down the gym have been trying. So Matt and I decided, we were getting very frustrated that we couldn't get into a UK one. So we're going out to Malaga in March to do the men doubles together. And Laura, who's the Hyrox queen and does unbelievably brilliant times, is doing the ladies singles out there. So we're going out to do that in March. But then Carl, who does a bit of training with us, he was talking about doing Hyrox. And I'm going, you can't do Hyrox on your own, the single start off with. You need to do doubles. He went, yeah, but who with? I went, I'll do it with you. And then we saw that there was one in Belgium. So we agreed to do, so I've agreed to do Belgium with Carl in the April, like the month later. Unfortunately, what I didn't look at is that the Malaga one's at the end of March, and the one in Belgium's at the beginning of April, so it's only 2 weeks apart.
Okay.
So I'll peak, and then I'll just keep it there. And then Carl got a place in the Manchester doubles.
Oh, what, through the ballot?
Through the ballot in January.
Yeah. Okay.
So
when's that one? Sorry, when's the?
That's in January. So now that's gone in front. So in January,
you've got January, March, and April. Okay.
So that's, and then so that's the plan for next year. But
and tell us about the nuclear races you did just a couple of weeks back.
Oh yeah. So because we couldn't get into Hyrox, there's some events called nuclear races, which is a bit like an outside Hyrox. So instead of running 8 individual kilometers, you run 6, but it's outside on in a field basically. And the CrossFit stuff is more like farm stuff. So you're flipping tires, tractor tires between you for like 200 meters, and you're carrying milk churns instead of kettlebells. And you're lifting sandbags and putting them over hurdles and stuff like that. So you basically got a run and 6 different events. So Carl and I did that a couple of weeks ago, which was good. We wanted to get around in under an hour, and we managed to do it in 52 minutes. So we were really pleased with that. That's a bit weird because you do a 1K run and then right near the end they put 2 4.5-foot fences in the way that you have to climb over. Why they would do that and make that harder? So you're running along quite nicely, and then there's a blooming fence you've got to stop, climb over, and get over. So we did that. I did my cycle rides. You mentioned that so Kids Inspire, amazing charity that help lots of young families and young children. They do a cycle ride. This time it was Essex to Amsterdam, 2 days. So a few of us from the gym did that, and a lot of other people, and we raised a lot of money for the Kids Inspire, which was good. And I also, one of the nicest things I was able to do, you know what's really good about if you can get fit, you can do things? A friend of mine lost a mum through dementia. And so she wanted to do a charity walk for Alzheimer's Association because they do this big dementia walk and stuff. And she was going to do a 13-mile walk, and she was going to do it with a friend to support her. And anyway, this person dropped out for one reason or another. So she was going to do it on her own. And that's quite a hard thing to do because it's such an emotional thing. Anyway, she was talking about going, I don't really want to do it on my own. So I went, I'll do it with you. And I'm not saying this good, wasn't nice of me to do that. But what was nice was I knew I was fit enough that I could just go and walk 13 miles. And because of that, I was able to support her through that. And it was amazing because I've done lots of charity things like the Kids Inspire thing, but this is all people that have been impacted by dementia. And it was, I got such a lot out of it from meeting lovely people, but it's nice just to be able to do stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the key thing. It's like you can just do things. And that's why I kept my routine. And that's why I like to keep my level of fitness ticking along. So ever since that last session when we had 2 years or nearly 2 years ago, I train 5 days a week. And I have my 2 days rest and I train. And if I get a bit of an injury, I do different training or whatever, but I keep that rhythm going. Partly because last time I stopped, I didn't go to the gym for 30 years. Probably a bit of me is worried about repeating that mistake. So that's why I do
it's
things.
funny, I say that a lot about, the ability to just be able to say yes to things. And no, if you don't want to, but you could do, but no, I don't want to. But the ability to just be like someone says like, oh, we're going over to the Brecons or we're going to Scotland to walk up some Munros or something like that. You're like, yeah, I'll come. Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely fine. Brilliant. I'll do that. I think that's great. And then a question I've got is, what would Steve version 1.0 think about Steve version whatever you're on now? Because you've gone through about 5 different versions in 5 years, haven't you? But do you know what I mean, though? Because like, if you could look ahead, what would he say? Would he be like, oh, you're a maniac. Who is this guy? Or would it be like, blimey, I'm glad I did that? Which is a difficult question to answer. Because, I mean, obviously, your mindset, everything has changed, haven't you? You've become a different person.
The old Steve would say to the new Steve, why?
Yeah.
Because the old Steve couldn't understand why on earth you would do that. And I'd like the word why, I always have done, both old and new. So he would go, why? And the new Steve would go, because it makes me feel better, because I enjoy it, and because it allows me to do the things I want to do. So as much as we talk about all of the fitness stuff and the bonkers things that I say yes to because I like a challenge and everything else, I will still tomorrow after work go to the we're doing a charity quiz and I'll have a few beers because I can. I'll still go to train the following morning and I may not be at my 100%, but I'll still turn up for training. But I for me, it allows me to do some of the other things that and have a balance in life, because that's why diets don't work. Diets, you go back to normal life. Well, my normal life is I will eat sometimes the wrong sort of food, not as often. I'll sometimes drink too much, but I'll balance it out by doing the exercise and then being really, really good with food. And so the why, that's the key thing. Why would you do it? And if you can answer that why, then I think that for me is the thing that keeps me accountable to myself, if you like.
I think that's great because most people say like, what would you say to your 20-year-old self or whatever? And it's like, well, it doesn't matter because my 20-year-old self wouldn't listen, because my dad, would have told me the same things and all of this sort of stuff. So I just find that interesting of like, because it's other people. I mean, you were at a particular size where people were worried about you by the sounds of it. Whereas there's a lot of people out there who will not be at a size that is worrying. So people will be like, "You're fine as you are. Why do you want to change?" Do you know what I mean? And that can talk people out of it when they actually truly want to change. But it might stop people doing it. And I'm not saying it's, you know, we all know that being overweight and being obese isn't great for you. It's not healthy for you. Even though all your markers can be in the right place, at some point it'll all tip over and things will happen. So there's lots of people who want to do something about that, but there's lots of other people who talk them out of it because you're fine as you are and all that. So, you know, and that's a big concern of mine, because people are capable of a hell of a lot more than they know. And we know that. And you're that person. And we talk to people like that on this podcast all the time. You know, not saying you're like, you know, not special, but it's like, it's you're in the minority, aren't you?
I am, but I am very lucky that, you know, my mum was in her late 80s when I said, "Mum, I'm going to have half my stomach cut away to lose weight." And all she said to me was, "Is it safe?" And I went, "Yes, as safe as it can be. I've got doing the right thing." And she went, "Okay." And she was supportive. I know people whose family aren't supportive. They think it's cheating. They think it's wrong. They think it's and so I'm lucky. I've got lots of, my family was great. My friends were amazing. I've got people around me now that really inspire me to do different things. Just because it's not just, in my view, it's not just people that are obese that have bad relationships with food or drink or whatever. It's that place where we've all got to look at our lives. And I don't want to sound like I'm preaching, but just go, if you want to do something, don't let life stop you. Don't allow work or family or kids to be an excuse. Just talk to someone about how you can arrange it so you can do those things, because there's always a way. People talk about like life hacks and stuff like that. The amount of people I've said down in the gym, who walks up the stairs in the office at work? Hardly anyone. Walk up the blooming stairs. Because if you want to get your steps up, that's a good way of getting fit. And it's like a life hack. When I go on holiday, I don't get in the lift unless I've got the cases. And so I walk up and down stairs. Trish now, she walks up and down stairs. And if you start doing it, you know, one of the things that I'm really proud of isn't me, it's my family now. Trish, my wife, she's losing weight. My son has lost 6 stone. He'd kill me for saying that live on a podcast. It's been brilliant. How's he done it? He's looked at, he's done water. He's done walking. He's looked at his lifestyle and said, "I'm eating too many takeaways. I'll cut those out and I'll eat different sorts of foods." Because he did it before, but he had a reason for doing it. And I think that people need to have a reason to do something. And if that reason is, I just want to do it because it'll make me feel better, then find a way of doing it. But get people to help you so it becomes that important that you want to put time and effort into it. Because if you don't want to put time and effort into it, you're not going to sustain it. And James, you talk about walking, and Pete, I know you do a bonkers amount of steps. I thought I do a lot of steps. You know, I'm proud I average 14,000 steps a day. Then I see how many Pete does, and I'm like, Jesus.
I do it for a living.
Yeah, fair point. But if you can't get out, I say to people, if you can't get out and walk for 30 minutes a day, don't join a gym, because you won't stick at it. Because if you can't find the time to do that, just go out, and you don't need to put special clothes on, anything else. How are you going to find the time to join a gym? Oh, well, I'll make time then. Well, you can't make time to go out for a walk. Sorry, guys. I know you run a gym and you probably don't.
No. That's brilliant, because it's true. Because, you know, it's like every January, you know, suddenly people think they're going to find this willpower and resolve and time that they've not had all the previous year. But because it's January, right, I'm serious now. I'm going to suddenly find it. And like you say, unless you really think about, well, how are you going to find it, and where are you know, when are you going to do it, and you schedule it, and all the rest of the things that you've said, it will just be a flash in the pan. And I love that. I was thinking the other day when I was just walking down, the kids here just go to school like a 10-minute walk from where we live. So each morning it's sort of, you know, Steph does it most of the time, but it's like a 10-minute walk there, 10-minute walk back. If I pick them up, 10-minute walk there, 10-minute walk back. And there was a thing I was watching, I think it was Mark Bell in the States, was talking about just for people, just as an entry point, 10-minute walks. You know, just look for, can you get out for 10 minutes and walk around the block at your lunchtime? Or can you do a 10-minute walk in the evening while the food's in the oven, or a 10-minute walk in the morning, you know? And if you can't find just a couple of 10 minutes a day to go out for a walk, you're going to struggle, you know. Even find excuses to walk for 10 minutes, you know. Just I post birthday cards that I write, and it's just a little walk to the post box and back. But every time you do these little walks, like you say, it's a reason, it's an excuse, an opportunity to add more steps, you know. And it only takes
little things. And once you've done that, plan it in, and then make that commitment in your calendar to say, I'm now going to do something that's more of an exercise, book into a class, go and do a run, you know, go for a longer walk, whatever you may like to do. But one thing I must say, what I want to say is, you know, you said about challenges and stuff. So I've said to you about, I've got the High Roxys next year. I've got a master plan of, in January 2026, I will be 60. Well, that will be my 60th year. I'm not 60 till the March. So you can sit. I'm trying to make a commitment in terms of I've contacted Walt Disney, because I don't know if you know this, Walt Disney do a marathon. And so my son told me about it, and I thought, if I've got one more marathon in me, doing a Walt Disney marathon could be quite cool. So I'm trying to get into the Walt Disney marathon for two reasons. One, I think it'll be quite cool to do. But two, I'm going to do it for Kids Inspire. Because what a better way to raise money for Kids Inspire than do it. So if anybody's listening, anytime you see me advertising it or whatever, then please put a couple of quid in for Kids Inspire. But there's another thing they do, and this is where Steve Bush can't say no. On the Friday, they do a 5K. On the Saturday, they do a 10K. And on the Sunday, they do the marathon. And so that's what I'm going to try and do for Kids Inspire.
And did you say if you do all three, you get like a special, like, Mickey medal or something?
you get a t-shirt with Dopey on, go, I really am Dopey. So I do. So that's my master plan in my 60th year. That's what I'm going to try and
here's my question: are you going to dress up as the same character for each race, or are you going to have 3 different characters?
No, I'm not complete. You know, I was saying about getting lapped in the Milton Keynes one. I've got this fear that I'm going to get overtaken by Goofy, Pluto, or Dumbo as I'm running along.
I had that. I did the New Forest half marathon, and it was like 26 degrees or something, and I'm rubbish with heat. They were handing out sponges and all this sort of stuff, and I hadn't trained much for it. I could do it, but I hadn't trained much for it. It's quite hilly, so I was complaining about the heat and why that was a bad for me and all that. And some guy passed me dressed as a polar bear, so he must have been really sweating. Like, okay, he went like racing past me as well, flying, and I was like, okay, that's no excuse then.
And the Disney marathon, obviously, that's Orlando, isn't it? That you'd be doing
it's
that.
Orlando, yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to be hot over there, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Oh, mind you, though, January, did you say?
Yeah,
January?
It'll be about 25. It'll still be hot. I like to run nice and cold. So,
yeah.
Those things. I watched the Chelmsford Marathon on Sunday, and I was watching people crossing the line, and it's inspiring. There was a guy, and he was in tears with the emotion of crossing the line, and you just think, what an achievement! It's just, I felt a bit bad because Matt did it, and I went, oh, I can't do training. I haven't got time. It wasn't I haven't got time. I didn't want to give up something else. I was being selfish. But I wish I'd done it now, because watching people, the achievement to do it is just incredible. So you don't, and it doesn't have to be that. If you've never done a 5K, do a 5K. If you've never done whatever, it does make you feel good having an achievement. That's my view. Anyway.
Yeah, but it doesn't really, like you said, it doesn't really matter what that achievement is. You know, it's actually the act of setting yourself a goal and working towards it, isn't it? And then seeing it through and sticking with the training and doing it, whatever that achievement is, you know, whether it be, like you said, like a high rocks, a run, a cycle, a duathlon, an endurance walk, walking up a mountain, something to do with strength training, you know, whatever it is. If you set your mind to it and you work towards it and you achieve it, that's kind of half of what being a human is, isn't it? I think.
I'll tell you what, the thing that everybody at the gym, the thing is that probably gives people the most satisfaction at the moment, there's a group just trying to do press-ups.
Yeah.
All right. And it's like someone will do one press-up when they've never done something before, never one before. It's brilliant. And then you get on there, and before you know it, like, what was it? Sue Bell turned around, she goes, I only did 10. A few months ago, she couldn't do 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
How amazing is that?
No, it's great. It's great.
Speaking of which, achievements and that, what are those medals in the background then? Seeing as we'll have to talk about your bookcase.
So these are just the things I've done. So there's Nuclear Fit. There's the Chelmsford Half Marathon from 22, 23, 24. There's my Dual Ashton medal, my Milton Keynes one, the Dementia Walk that I did. And that's the one. Yeah, I didn't get a medal, but I'm proud of that. That's my High Rocks finishing patch. Because that
you're meant to put that on like your rucksack, aren't you, or something?
Yeah.
On your Speedos.
Yeah.
That was it back in the day, wasn't it? About how far you could swim. There's a guy who I used to go to school with, Jeffrey K. I haven't said that name for about 40 years. And you'd be like, how far can you swim, Jeffrey? And he just pointed at his todger because his mum had put it on his Speedos, like right there. And he just go like that.
I thought you were going to say he had it tattooed on it, but anyway.
We'll be like, how far can you swim? What, like 2 inches? If a half marathon or a marathon is a 5 out of 10, a High Rocks is a 10 out of 10. People that do that, and you know what? You go there, and there are all sorts of shapes and sizes and ages and stuff that do it, where people just go, I'm going to challenge myself. Personally, I'd start lower, but there are people that go in that. It's a good luck to them.
And would you like, just before we start sort of wrap up on that, I mean, would that be something in your future that you'd like to do a High Rocks as a solo event as well? I know you're doing them. You've done the first one as a pair, and you've got 3 more pairs lined up. But would you like to do the whole thing on your own? At
100%. So the beginning part of next year we'll be doing the doubles. I really hope I can get into the Disney Marathon in January 26. That means I've got a nice 6 months at the end of next year where I haven't got anything planned to do. That's the time to do an individual, because you need to do a shed load of running for High Rocks, which I probably didn't do enough of last time. So it will also make me, it will sort of tick the box for getting ready for High Rocks, but it will then help me get running to work towards doing the Disney runs, hopefully.
Yeah.
So you know, when I was talking to Laura down at the gym and the time she can do and stuff, but that's a tough thing to do. But yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because that's
if anyone's got any other challenges, I'll do those as well, as you know.
No, you've got enough on your plate. You've got enough on your plate.
We'll think of some. In fact, should we do it every week? You know how podcasts, like some of them do a question for the next guest and all that. We'll be like, what challenge have you got for Steve? Let's fill his calendar.
It's not a one-handed press up, because the one thing I'm never going to try and do is a one-handed press up. I don't get that.
I've just started with Sue, actually, because I think she might do the SFB next May, the bodyweight certification that Claire talked about a couple of weeks back. Yes, so we just started working towards that with her, because she's already quite good at doing like chin-ups, pull-ups. She's getting really close to that. She's really good at the pistol squats. Yeah. So for her, it's the strength in the press up, you know, getting the one arm press up. But yeah, no, that's good.
You did mention it this morning, but I was a bit dismissive of the idea of joining her on that training.
Who mentioned? Oh, Sue mentioned it too.
Yeah. She went, do you want to try one? No.
No. Deary me. Right, Pete, anything as we wrap up, mate? No, that's been good.
No, I've said everything I need to say in this one. Yeah. Thank you very much.
No, that's been really good, Steve, catching up. And like I say, I really recommend, if people have listened to this and want to go back to that first episode we did, episode 127, why weight loss surgery fails for the majority of people. It's well worth a listen. And like you say, it's always going to be, I hadn't actually made that connection that you mentioned, Steve, with obviously the weight loss surgery, and now obviously all the stuff in the news and everything about these innovations in weight loss drugs and things, which, like you say, a lot of people kind of demonize or say, oh, it's lazy, it's the easy way out. But they say the same thing about weight loss surgery. I don't think it is. Like you say, if it's a tool that can help people move in the right direction, then fantastic. You know, by all means, it's great. But like you say, you have to have a longer term strategy that kind of underpins the use of that tool, because a kind of a quick intervention isn't going to produce results decades from now unless you've got everything else set up properly. But no, fantastic, Steve. Thanks so much. Now, Steve, if people want to kind of follow you and bits, with what you do, because I know you do post, I know you post a lot, you go to the football and you do training and stuff, but if people want to follow, so they can see what events and things you're doing, are you Instagram? You're pretty good on Instagram, aren't you?
Instagram and LinkedIn. I put some of the things on LinkedIn because I think it's balanced. It's about, you've got to combine your personal and professional life. Lots of people keep them separate, and that's where I think it goes a little bit wrong. You need to put them together because you can't separate your life. You have to work, but you need to plan your time in accordingly. So LinkedIn or on Instagram as Steve J. Bush.
Yeah, Steve J. Bush. Yeah, Steve J. Bush, Instagram and LinkedIn. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Steve. That was really, really good to catch up and to hear what you've got coming up. And yeah, maybe, we'll definitely speak to you after the Disney Marathon.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, and we'll do a follow-up. Number 3.
The Disney 5K, 10K, and then the marathon would be brilliant. Yeah, really, really good. Cool. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, everybody, for listening. That's been really good catching up with Steve. That was episode 219. We will be back next week with episode 220. I don't think I've got a guest booked on as yet, but I've got about a list of 25 people that I'm kind of reaching out to, and I get on at different stages. We've already got guests lined up, probably taking us up into December, to be honest. So, but yeah, I'm not sure about next week yet. But that was great. So please do like, share, subscribe, leave a review if you're watching or listening on a platform that allows you to do so, especially Apple Podcasts. Go on to Apple Podcasts, leave us a review on there. We'll read it out live on the show, and we will send you out some merch, either t-shirt, hoodies, that sort of thing. And we will see you next week for episode 220. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.